Right. Let's move into the final promised segment of the stream. I recorded an episode of the Esports Gospel yesterday, maybe? Might have been in the small hours of today, technically, whatever. Anyway, it's ready to go. We'll be putting that out tomorrow. Hey, what up, Papa Smurf? Good to see you. But I talk about sports washing. It's really boring now, Richard. You're the only one talking about it. Yeah, I get it. But, like, we had the Gamers8 CSGO tournament. And, you know, if you're a subscriber to the Esports Gospel on Substack, you're going to get a really detailed version of this first bit. But I'm so staggered at the lack of criticism. Like, it's crazy how little criticism there was about Gamers8 in the concept of it being a Saudi event. But there wasn't even criticism for valid things. So I just want to quickly go through some of the stuff I observed, right? I went to the coverage that HLTV did. And it's time to just lay it bare and talk about the tangled web we've got going on in the coverage space in CS. It's not a good time. It really isn't. There's no by the numbers, so you don't have two grumpy old men keeping it real. There isn't anything that comes close to that in terms of, you know, being fractious and being, you know, willing to rock the boat. You've got one real CSGO news website. No one else comes close. You know, Deserto do stories, but they're greatly diminished at the moment. And it looks to mostly be Lewis Mira since, you know, they've made their cutbacks to survive the esports winter and get through the digital media wasteland that's going on right now. So what do we really have? So we have HLTV. We have anything that makes it onto Reddit. Spoiler, the mods deleted a ton of criticism about the event. We have HLTV confirmed, hosted by Chad, who is an ESL shill now, and also Talking Counter, which it's just friends talking about Counter-Strike, but drumroll please to burn all the bridges I've got left. They haven't been completely honest about how their sponsorship deal with Spotify works. The Talking Counter podcast is currently sponsored by Spotify, but the way that money gets distributed to them is through ESL accounts. It was a Spotify deal done by ESL. I checked in with the ESL sources. ESL didn't have a podcast. Spotify said they wanted one. It's only Spotify Germany, by the way. And they said, well, if we know some people who make a podcast, and we can use your portion of that, your money that you give us, we can use a portion of that to pay them to inventory it. And Spotify said yes. So it is a Spotify sponsor. It is Spotify sponsoring it, but the money physically comes out of ESL's accounts. I checked it with, like, people I know inside of ESL. So I don't know why that is being obfuscated. And I've known about that for weeks, and I said, I'll give them a chance. And the chance was this. Will you criticize the Saudi Arabian regime even for 30 seconds when you do your Talking Counter podcast? Will you use the word sports washing once? They didn't. They didn't want to do it. They won't do it. They will not. And that proved to me in that moment that, unfortunately, for good or ill, that podcast is going to not be iconic. It's incredible, really, because they had plenty bad things to say about Blast. You know, Chad, plenty of critique for Blast on HLTV confirmed. But suddenly we get a sports washing tournament in Riyadh. No opinions. No opinions about sports washing. No opinion. Right, you have to understand why this is important this week. Right, and it gets heavy now, guys. But don't worry, I'll walk us back to the funny thing, and then I'm going to end this topic by reading some moron comments on Reddit, which we all love, right? But it gets really fucking dark when you consider that the same week we've got this tournament in Riyadh. I don't know if you all saw this, but Human Rights Watch dropped a 73-page report, okay? And it's about killings at the Yemeni-Saudi border. And what is happening is there are mass murders of Ethiopians who are displaced seeking asylum, right? And they are being gunned down. Hundreds of people machine gunned. I'll read you some of this. Saudi border guards have killed at least hundreds of Ethiopian migrants and asylum seekers who tried to cross the Yemen-Saudi border between March and 2022 and June 2023. Saudi officials are killing hundreds of women and children out of view of the rest of the world, while they spend billions on sports washing to try and improve their image. This is a quote from the report. The report, if you want to find it, is called "They Fired on Us Like Rain: Saudi Arabian Mass Killings of Ethiopian Migrants at the Yemeni-Saudi Border." It says here, Human Rights Watch has found that Saudi border guards have used explosive weapons to kill many migrants, shot other migrants at close range, including women and children, in a widespread and systematic pattern of attacks. In some instances, Saudi border guards asked migrants which limb they wanted shot off and then would shoot them at close range. Saudi border guards fired explosive weapons at migrants who attempted to flee. And then the quote is, Saudi officials are killing hundreds of migrants and asylum seekers in this remote border area out of view of the rest of the world, said Nadia Hardman, a refugee and migrant rights researcher at Human Rights Watch. All the while, they've spent up billions to buy up professional golf, football clubs, and major entertainment events to improve the Saudi image and deflect attention from these horrendous crimes. Now, if you can stomach it, there is a 7-minute video. And the things that these migrants are saying happened to them, I can't even repeat them on Twitch. They're that horrifying. They are that disturbing. Imagine the worst thing, and it's that, right? So that is the same people, because remember, the problem with this particular ownership group, the Savvy Gaming Group, and its despicable tendrils, which are under the soil of esports everywhere, even compromising seemingly benign podcasts, right? They're the same people ordering this. There is no abstraction. The Crown Prince is the chairman of the board. His brother runs the esports division for the Saudi Arabian government. Those two entities ran Gamers8. So you're all there taking your pictures in Riyadh. Great job, Riyadh. And listen, I'll say it. I'm talking to you as well, Henry and Anders, my friends, right? You're out there pausing for pictures the same week that story drops, and I just hope people are going to start reconsidering. I know it's 80% of the calendar. I know it's all the money. I know if you speak up about this, you are going to not work. But fuck me, somebody has got to say something, because these people are doing that. You cannot be Black Lives Matter in March, and then, well, I'm going to go work with someone that mowed down Ethiopian refugees in fucking August. You cannot be that person. It doesn't pass. You have to choose. And if you want to choose the bag, yeah, it's the wrong choice, but you probably got your fucking reasons. But you have to then admit to yourself and admit publicly to all the people who look up to you as a role model, I didn't care about those things. And then, and only then, can people have an honest appraisal of your work, your legacy, and what it means. You are creating a generation of jaded teenagers, and I fucking hate Generation Z. They terrify me. I think they're so far behind where all these great generations of history are. But you know what they've got? They should have optimism and boundless energy. And you know what's going to make them jaded is if everywhere they look and every role model they look at, they see a shill and a sellout. It's going to break them, and they're going to think there's no point in aspiring for better, and the world won't change, and it won't become better. That's what you're doing. It's not, lol, I'm just getting the bag in esports. You are doing something that will have ramifications for such a long time, and somebody has to take a stand somewhere. So, with all of that said, where was the critique? Does nobody have any critique about this tournament? And you know what? They fucking don't, guys. They literally don't. I couldn't believe it. Right, let's just start with the HLTV coverage. And let's just talk about journalistic incuriosity, right? Because for me, I have to believe that when you're a journalist, one of the first things you're going to want to do in your brain is ask questions. And you're going to want to, shake some fucking trees and rattle some cages and rock some boats and see what comes falling out. Because that is how you get the truth to come out. And the truth will set you free. If something can't survive the truth, it probably doesn't deserve to survive at all. And so let's look at their coverage. You go to their coverage, and what do we get? So in their coverage, right, you can see here, they decided to do an article which I thought was sort of mind-blowing. Right? It's right at the bottom here, actually. I'll get it. They announced the tournament. No mention of sports washing, no mention of all the problems, no mention of the conflict of interest. Fine, okay. They do the talent lineup. No problems with that. They do the format and the prize money. No problem with that. Then they wrote a preview for the event itself. Okay? They do a preview for the event. And this preview is mind-blowing to me. This preview is, right, straight single elimination tournaments, few of them happen, fewer on LAN, never has one been classified as a big event on HLTV until now. So what they're saying is, and of course it's Striker, again, HLTV confirmed. Does anybody think this might be a problem, by the way? HLTV, their MVP awards at these events are sponsored by 1xBet. 1xBet is a sponsor of ESL. HLTV do HLTV confirmed live, right? And ESL let HLTV use their venue free of charge and let HLTV sell tickets at their venues. Do you think maybe this is going to start causing a bit of problem in the tenor and the tone of the coverage that's coming out? And remember, ESL ran this event. They ran the CSGO tournament. So, Gamers8 preview. No slow starters allowed, it's called. You can go read it yourself. I'm only going to read extracts of it. There's never been another big event. So this is the event that gets to be big event, because single elimination, they usually don't do them for all the reasons. People bomb out. You don't, it's not a true measure of a team. Anybody can lose to anybody else, especially now. He goes on to explain all those reasons. But then he also goes on to say, it's actually a good thing now. It's a good thing we're changing this to a big event. And keep in mind, when you do a big event, you get all of the benefits, right? Of all of the fantasy and all of the pick'ems and all of the stats and all of that stuff. And they're there doing the live coverage and taking the photographs that if anybody even links to them on Twitter, we're going to sue you, we're going to get you, we're HLTV, right? They're doing all of that because it's a big event. So they justified it for this event. And they wrote an article justifying it just in case anybody said, hang on, usually you don't make these events big events. So they did that. Then they did exactly one team preview. Okay? Exactly one. They didn't do any other previews or reviews or write-ups on any other teams. And who do you think it was? Oh, it was Falcons. The Saudi-owned team that got invited for no other reason other than they're Saudi-owned. People were saying, oh, Richard, you're taking this too far. It is meant to be a meritocracy when you get invited to tournaments, but whatever. I guess we can just invite tournaments now, right? Teams now, just because, well, you're one of us that owns them. You're in our group. You're in our gang. You're in our cartel. That's fine, I suppose. By the way, everybody hated it when EG were getting invited to events as local heroes. Right? No, everyone. But here's the problem. It doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make sense because when you look at the fucking lineup, there's no Saudi there. So the hometown heroes thing doesn't even fucking measure up. But anyway, they fucking invite Falcons, a write-up for them on HLTV about, they're a team full of potential and it's going to be tough for them. And didn't write anything else like that for anyone else. Just didn't. Then there was some news, wasn't there? We all had a bit of news, right? We had a bit of news. Okay? Now, again, I remember when people were really curious about things. Remember curiosity? Remember when people were like, ooh, that's happening, I wonder why? And people would, like, speculate and gossip, and occasionally a journalist would go and do their job and, like, ask some fucking questions, maybe get some fucking answers and tell the fucking truth. I know, it's crazy how these things used to work in the before times. Zonic misses Gamers8. So you're telling me nobody is curious at all about the fucking greatest coach of all time who coaches the team of the year who eventually go on to win the tournament, and he's not there, and it's just a personal event. It's just a personal matter. Nobody has anything else to say. Nobody asks any questions. Now, what could it be? Sonic's a father. Maybe his kid got a cold. You know, maybe the org said, just have this one off, big guy, no big deal. Or maybe he didn't want to go because he had some sort of moral objection to it, which I think would be interesting to know about, wouldn't it? Be interesting to know if the greatest coach in the game has decided to be the one to take a stand against the Saudi bag. I'd like to know about that. I'd like to know that I'm not standing alone. Maybe he can encourage other people to say no to the Saudi bag. No questions, though, guys. No questions, no curiosity, no stories, no speculation, no digging whatsoever, because it's the Gamers8 event and we better not say anything. Better not rock that boat. That's fucking crazy, guys. Anyway, it goes right the way through. The rest of their HLTV coverage is largely uneventful. So, we get to the event itself. Now, there was a number of criticisms of the event, which for some reason, they just didn't seem to be allowed on the subreddit. Somebody put a Reddit thread up and they said, the guy's talking Arabic on the stream, on the English-speaking stream. There's a lot of Arabic here. That thread just got deleted. That thread just got removed. There was also the crowd. I mean, the crowd were lackluster, I think is a good way to put it. You know, the crowd was lackluster, didn't fucking seem to be engaged at all. No, I remember when we used to criticize crowds for not turning up and not doing anything. They only seem to be interested in fucking, you know, booing the Israeli players, which, by the way, are we just going to gloss over that? Are we just going to gloss over the fact that they had Israeli players basically being booed by the crowd? And you know what they did? This was the Israeli players on Vitality. What they did was they basically muted the stream when the crowd were making the noises. They didn't, like, address it, didn't speak about it, didn't leave it up. They wanted to obfuscate the fact that Spinks and Flames being booed while they were playing on Vitality just wasn't happening. There was no Reddit threads about it. I managed to see like one HLTV thread about it, which I did archive it. Let me see if I've still got it. So just so you know I'm not making it up, you can see there, anti-Semitic crowd, title, so disappointing, right? So it was definitely happening. I'm not making it up. It was going on. Nobody said anything about it. No opinion. Wasn't it bad when Brazilian fans were booing players because of their nationality? Wasn't it bad when they were giving simple disrespect? Didn't we have things to say about it? Well, not this time for some reason. Incredibly, people have forgotten about all of the things that they said. We just tolerating it, I guess. So not a problem. Then this didn't get talked about either, which I thought was staggering. Here we have a tweet from Spinks himself. He said, me, Flames, and Flame Z, as he's insisting on being called now, and Nerd CS had security with us throughout this event 24/7 because the relationship between Israel and Saudi Arabia. I want to say thank you for the security, guys, and everyone who were included in this. You made us feel safe and very welcome, so thank you. Now, look, I can say positively, yeah, it's good that you identified a potential risk. But wait, I thought Riyadh was a paradise. I thought Riyadh was paradise and nothing bad could happen to anyone, and we don't need to worry. And actually, because the Saudi Arabian government and the Israeli government are playing nice, we don't have to worry about anything. It's all going to be okay. But they got booed throughout the tournament and had to have a security guard. So for me, I think the optics of that, you need to sort of be aware of how that looks to people. But no one's got anything to say. I remember it was bad when Hiko had to have a bodyguard again in Brazil. All the players who had to go to Brazil and have bodyguards. It was certainly bad when I had to have a bodyguard. But nobody's saying anything. Nobody's got anything to say about any of this, apparently. Nobody at all. Anyway, we then at least the tournament was fine, right? And there were no problems. No problems with the tournament, yeah? Yeah, okay then. In the middle of the second map of the final, okay, there was a 52-minute tech pause. Now, Ents have won the first map. It's 9-6 on Mirage to Vitality. Then there is a 52-minute tech pause at half-time in a game. Now, I'm just saying that formats are one thing to criticize, but surely we can all agree that a tech pause of 52 minutes in a final for that much money is unacceptable, right? And it's unacceptable, and it's the type of thing people universally criticize. The only piece of tournament criticism I saw this entire tournament, by the way, was simple complaining about having to play a best of 3 at 11:30 at night, meaning it was likely to run into the small hours, but it turned out it didn't because Navi just lost, right? And so you look at that, right? And by the way, we don't play games after midnight anymore. Isn't it historic? CSPPA, ESL. ESL just do what the fuck they want. You will play after midnight, in fact, if they want you to. Whatever to get it done. And so anyway, nobody is up in arms about this. When you're playing CS and you're in a final and you're a map up and it's a close half, 9-6, remember that's like a pistol round. It's coin toss. It doesn't mean anything. A 52-minute break for you, breaking up your momentum, is really bad. If you're behind in a final and you're a map down and you're fighting in a map like Mirage, a Rock'em Sock'em map, and your opponents have got the hot hands, a 52-minute break for you is fucking great, right? Nobody has any opinions about that in the whole scene. Nobody wants to mention how much of a fuck-up that is. And not their first at Gamers8, because go look what happened in the FIFA. They had a penalty shootout in the final where the first guy's penalties were going out on the fucking screen and could be seen by the crowd, seen by his opponent, and he was putting his hand up saying, whoa, I don't want my inputs out. And they just said, no, you've got to take the shot. And then they put a statement out saying, yeah, well, that's how it worked in all of the tournaments, including in earlier rounds. So even though he complained, he didn't complain in time, so fuck him. And so we've had this in a big final now, and nobody's got an opinion about it. In fact, I'll just show you. This is how it was covered in HLTV. Barely mentioned, right? Vitality outlast Ents. Mirage served as Vitality's choice, and they started so much better than they did on Anubis. Still, it was a back and forth battle with late round scenarios and force buys deciding things more often than not. Vitality had a little more firepower in clutches and half buy rounds, and it granted them a 9-6 half victory. After a lengthy technical pause, the second half commenced. That's it. That's the official record of what happened. A lengthy technical pause. A 52-minute momentum breaker. And the official document of record says it was a lengthy tech pause. A lengthy tech pause is 10 minutes, guys. And again, I'm saying 52. It was close to that. I was like, 48, 52. I don't know. I didn't watch any of it, so I had to like scrub through the VODs. And of course, where's outspoken Chad? Sir Chad of Baggington, where is he? I guarantee they won't be going nuts about it on HLTV, confirmed. I guarantee they won't call out the organisers. I guarantee it's not going to be in any of the VODs, right? So, that goes on. Then, just to fucking top it all off, right? One of the revelations of the event itself was Fancy ADC, or just Fancy, a chap called Abdulaziz Al Rashid. Okay. Partway through the tournament, well, just before the finals, he just wasn't there. He'd been having great back and forth and banter with Banks, right? And Gamers8 on their official Twitter account put out, "We wish you a speedy recovery, Habibi. Not even surgery can stop him from watching world-class Counter-Strike." What surgery? What happened? What accident, guys? Why is your host just before the finals suddenly in hospital? And how is this just a way to announce it, right? And he said, hey guys, spent the night in hospital. Now I've got to go through surgery after yesterday's accident in a couple of hours. Sucks I might not watch the entire grand final. But hey, even when I'm not with you guys on stage, I'll always be in Twitch chat. And people were replying and going, oh, yes, yes, yes. Yeah, get well soon, speedy recovery. All the people at the event were saying speedy recovery, speedy recovery. So you go, well, what the fuck's happened there? Can't show you this tweet. Because it's got an adult age gate on it, sensitive content, so it doesn't appear in OBS. But anyway, the tweet says, and it's got 2 photos of a broken arm with what appears to be a spiral fracture in it because it's doing that weird thing. He said, after 32 hours at the hospital, 8 nails, 3 metal plates and rods, I'm happy to report that the surgery was a success. Get used to seeing me with a cast on my shoulder for a while. I'll be on bed rest for the next few months, but before that, there's one last thing I've got to do. And then it was, I believe, post a picture of him lying in bed with a smiley face. And then he said, a broken arm ain't going to stop me from being on stage. It's Rocket League time. And so he's straight back into the action with a broken arm. So anyway, is anybody curious as to what happened? Did nobody want to ask any questions? Nobody cares? Like, a member of the talent pool in a major event, a big event, going to HLTV, got injured during the event. And again, no one's curious. No one's got any questions. No one's saying anything. So I'll just tell you guys what happened, right? Because fuck this industry. So here's what happened. They were filming a piece of content for the final. And they were riding around in dune buggies. And let's just say, and I'm being generous here, somebody else, not fancy, was getting a bit carried away with it all. Control was lost. The car was crashed. And his arm got broke in the crash. Now, I'm like, that's a story that should probably get told, right? Bit fucked up, you know. I've been put in similarly dangerous situations when, you know, filming content and they make you sign waivers and do all this other stuff. But no one's got any opinions about it. No one's got any questions about it. Everyone's really curious. It's a big deal, by the way, if a member of the talent pool breaks body parts, breaks bones while they're working an event. That's kind of a big deal, yeah? But no one's got anything to say. I remember, you know, the config saga was like a huge deal, wasn't it? Oh, boo-hoo, boo-hoo-hoo. Config tried to beat someone up and lost and broke his own leg. And then told the community it was the darkest period of his life before immediately going back to the same nightclub and drinking in Pashaville at the next ESL Pro League, seen by everyone. Oh, he got a broken leg. No one care about this? No one cared? No one want to ask questions? No one want to know if a duty of care to broadcast talent was in some way failed at a Saudi... No, we don't. We just want the bad guys. Sorry. Fuck you, Richard. Why are you asking these questions for? Why are you pointing out these inconvenient facts? What are you doing it for? So, we get to the next bit of this. And that is that I want to just say, keep in mind that Human Rights Watch report about Ethiopians being indiscriminately mowed down with machine guns and explosives while they're seeking asylum. I cannot believe what my eyes. FaZe Clan did this. And just in case you think it's one of those AIs or whatever... So for those that don't know, try not to get nervous around the luggage that they're carrying. That is traditional Saudi Arabian men's garb, right? And, you know, a lot of people thought this was funny. The Saudi Arabian fans loved it, thought it was hugely respectable. I didn't. I tweeted out and said... It's ridiculous that we all expect broadcast talent to take a stand and criticize them for taking the bag. Players will routinely do things like this. And people will go, well, what's the problem with it? Well, again, let's just fucking see if we can all pay attention. FaZe, Each person that's done this is normalizing attending events in Saudi Arabia. This is making light of attending events in Saudi Arabia. And the event is being run by the Saudi Arabian state. The same Saudi Arabian state putting women in prison for 45 years for tweets. The same Saudi Arabian state murdering those Ethiopian people we just talked about. The same Saudi Arabian state that murders journalists for saying inconvenient things about them in embassies and carves them up with bone saws and puts them in suitcases. This is the same state that drops bombs on Yemeni children, creating the largest humanitarian crisis on earth that no one's really talking about. So, no, this isn't funny, and it's not cool. Far from. Because in that image, what they are saying is it's perfectly acceptable to do business with these people. It's perfectly acceptable to go and compete at events and use our celebrity to obfuscate their crimes. So no, it's not funny. And no, this is normalizing something unbelievably unhealthy. Now, I tweeted it out, just saying, probably should criticize players for this. The replies were very illustrative of where we are at in terms of how much sports washing is working. I got so much criticism. I got called Tommy Robinson. I got called racist. I got told that is no different than wearing a cowboy hat if you go to Dallas. That was another one. You'll see all these comments in the next You Speak Your Brains, probably. I'll screenshot them and cut them out and post them. And I just kept repeating the same thing over and over again. Point to me an esports event the American government has run. Point to, and they would go, but the US Air Force sponsors it, and then I would link them to all my criticisms of the US Air Force, because the US Air Force are war criminals. So, no gotcha there, guys. They can't do it. Then they go, you're from the UK. What about your abuses to Iraqis? I go, yeah, they're disgusting. I actually marched against the Iraq war and lost my best friend in that bullshit conflict that we followed America blindly into because Tony Blair was a fundamentalist Christian like his mate George. So, did do my part, did write about it, got bottled actually, got attacked by a guy from Boston with a bottle because he said I was making light of 9/11. So, was out there, was saying things. But anyway, show me a UK government-run esports event that they're attending. Show it to me. Show it to me. Just insane levels of stupidity. I got replies on Twitter saying, how's this any worse than being sponsored by a crypto site or being sponsored by a betting site? How many lives has gambling ruined, say the morons? And you go, can you tell me the last time a gambling website sent hired goons into a building to fucking carve up somebody who pointed out they don't pay their customers with fucking hacksaws? Can anybody do that? When was the last time a gambling website imprisoned a woman for 45 years for criticizing their deposit levels? It doesn't happen. So anyway, on and on it went. I had somebody as well. They said to me, oh yeah, I know they're not saints. I know they're not saints. So I linked them. I linked them to even more heinous stuff that the Saudi Arabian state has done. I linked them to the time they beat and tortured a confession out of a 14-year-old boy, actually, for taking part in a protest. Made him confess. Yeah, I know they're not saints, but what are we supposed to do? Not go to the tournament, guys. Don't take the money, guys. It's real easy. It's real fucking simple. Every time you do it, you're normalizing this stuff. And so you get to the fucking Reddit threads. Oh, God. Right? So I'll rewind, because this is all I'm going to be writing about for the foreseeable. I can sort of see it now. Sports washing works. Look at the comments. This was a nightmare. This was when I published the story about Team Liquid monetizing their apology for the Riyadh Masters attendance. And comments in here are just insane. People just saying, oh, why would you expect dogs not to get the bag? I mean, there's 4 options for Liquid. Say nothing, say something. Say, don't use the hashtag. Say something, use the hashtag. Stop competing in Dota, CSGO, FIFA, fighting games, Fortnite, Rocket League, StarCraft, racing games, R6 or PUBG, because Saudi Arabia owns all those now and then probably go out of business. And it's like, no, dude, you just have to not go to the Saudi-owned tournaments. There has to be others. Perhaps if you and a coalition of the willing to boycott Saudi Arabia went to other tournament operators and said, we will exclusively do a tournament with you. We'll do a franchise league with you, a tournament operator that we've never worked with before, and maybe we can build something special. You could do it, but you don't want to do it. You don't even try. And all the fans, they all carry water. Look at this. You mean to tell me, let me get this straight, you mean to tell me orgs care more about making money than socio-ethical issues? No fucking way. People just don't even get, like, emotional about this stuff anymore. The sports washing argument is this, that basically everyone's doing it, everyone wants to make money, no one is incorruptible, so it is what it is. And then you get the useful idiot response. So let's do this. This was in the Global Offensive announcement thread. Who even can think like this? Well, let's see. Come through. Top comment is sports washing. Well done, CSGO. Usually the best of a bad bunch. Here it is. So this is clearly esports washing, and it's being done in other games as well. But what if teams donated the prize money, or at least a portion, to causes that would irritate the Saudis? If teams or players feel weird about it, spend it where they aren't and should be. So the point isn't the money. It wouldn't matter, by the way, if all of these teams gave all of the money to charities. All that would happen is two things. One of two things. Either the Saudi Arabians stop inviting them to the tournaments, or ESL stop inviting them to the tournaments, because as we've seen, you can't really criticize them. Everyone's just going to make an excuse to stay involved with them. Or it achieves absolutely nothing. Do you know why? Because it's the spectacle. While you're staring at that and going, wow, they just like us, for real, for real. Look at how they love esports. This is cool. The Saudi Arabian state knows you're not thinking about all the things the Saudi Arabian state does. So the spectacle's the point, not the money. They simply use the money to make it so people won't say no. People can't afford to say no. That's what they tell themselves. I had a conversation tonight, funnily enough, where the person I was talking to was literally saying, look, if an esports org doesn't take the Saudi money as things stand in this landscape, they go bankrupt. And that's the choice you expect people to make. And I'm like, no. What I expect you to do is, first of all, perhaps we can make esports a product worth buying, because I love how the fans, even the fans that call out Saudi Arabia, give themselves a pass. They go, oh, we've got nothing to do with this. You're literally the root cause of the problem, because you won't fucking pay for anything. You've been the root cause of the problem for 15 fucking years. And now they're about to sell out to the Saudis, and you're going, well, how did we get here? You cunt. But here's what I expect you to do. If we can't make esports a product worth paying for, if that's a pipe dream, you may as well pack it all up and stop. And if we can, how about we start living within our means? How about that? You don't have to pay a player $40,000 a month because you really want them. It's just you really want them because you think, you, a team owner, you think it'll give you the best chance of winning. You don't have to do that. But you do that, and the Americans do it all the time. They come in and go, oh, well, I'm like fucking Jerry Jones at the fucking Cowboys, so here's what we're going to do. Yeah, I want that player over there. Oh, well, he's under contract at the moment. What's his buyout? $2 million? Fine, pay it. It's VC money. Pay the $2 million. And what do you reckon we need to offer him in salary to get him? What, like $40,000 a month? Well, actually, the average salary is $20,000. Yes, he'll never say no to double. Don't you want to haggle? Don't you want to revise it down? It's a hashtag not my money. And so they inflate everything. These American owners and the VC owners, they inflate everything. And then when we get to a point where nobody wants to take the L, And everyone's like, we're going to keep on going. We're going to keep on pushing. We're going to keep on fudging the numbers and lying to sponsors and getting in bed with crypto and NFTs and unlicensed gambling and skins gambling sites and anything unethical that will pay vast amounts of money. And we've arrived at our final destination on the train of dubious ethics. We've literally arrived at blood money. Okay? It's the last stop. And everyone's got off and had a stretch and gone, yeah, actually, it's not so bad round here. All of that is happening because team owners don't just want to live within their means. Even Victor Goosens. Remember, I respect Victor Goosens. Really like Victor. I think he's a cool guy. When he gave that statement out, and what did he say in his statement? He said in a statement, which was sort of a borderline apology, but not quite. He said if we boycotted Saudi events, we wouldn't be able to attract the best players. We'd likely stop being a competitive entity, and we might even go out of business. There has to be a way to arrest that decline without being in bed with Saudi Arabia. There just has to be. And if you cannot stop that, then your business is broken. You do not have to say yes to every piece of money if you have a sustainable business. It's as simple as that. And so anyway, you can see how the sports washing works. You can go through all of this. And this is another great one. To everyone being negative towards this announcement, I have a question. Would you prefer the Saudis keep their money and spend it elsewhere? I sure would prefer the esports scene to have this money than the Saudis, and that goes for every other venture. Anything that pulls capital away from the Saudis, besides terrorism, is a win in my book. Don't you fucking realize that they are buying something with the money? They're buying control of the scene. What are you talking about? Well, it's pulling money away from them. It's not, is it? They own it. They own the fucking tournaments that they're putting money into. Serious question about Saudi money and why does everyone hate it? And as the tournament went along, right, started to notice as well, like just little groundswell, just little pop-outs. There was also, I did a video, the shilling. You remember my video, the shilling? That made it. And StarCraft, because obviously there was two StarCraft tournaments in Gamers8. And here it is, giving insight on why a massive amount of people dislike the Gamer8 stream. Downvoted, of course. 35% upvoted. Thanks for bringing it to attention, but what's there to do? I love watching the pros play. I watched both days so far, and it's some of the best games matches. Are you telling me not to watch it? I mean, yeah, will be a start. Don't worry, though. I mean, the tournament you're watching is just literally controlled by someone who just machine gunned down a bunch of children. So, I mean, what are you going to do? Not watch the fucking alien attack game? Don't care. I'm sure glad StarCraft 2 esports is getting a much-needed boost. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. I knew this would turn up eventually. You really expect freelance players and casters for whom this event is probably a significant part of their yearly earning potential to take a political stance. It's easy to do that from your armchair. And since this is Reddit, it means you're likely an American, which means you're likely to live in a multi-car household and drive some awful 10 miles per gallon siege tank pickup truck. You want people to end their entire career over this shit, but most Americans are too entitled to even change to more efficient vehicles to stop sponsoring Aramco and cooking the planet alive. Pretty disingenuous, to be honest. I mean, there's just no words, is there? The players are there to play StarCraft, and I support that, especially knowing they need this in a scene that's drying up. And that was that. Not much debate to be had over in StarCraft, I guess. So obviously in the shilling video, I called out, you know, the Dota talent that had gone there because obviously some of them, like Purge, had said, Republicans are bad. And it's like, cool, okay. Well, Saudis are Republicans on steroids. Why are you fucking going to do work for them? Oh, okay. You've given yourself a pass, you know, while condemning a significant amount of people in America. It's interesting, that, isn't it? You're one of the good ones. So this came up. There was a couple of people, you know, brought the receipts, mic drop. But still worth noting, 54%. Nobody wants to vote in and have this conversation. I don't really follow sports and esports, but this is what Saudis do. If you're not happy about it, then I don't think gamers are the issue here. Let's start with our governments that preach about human rights, equality and all that, and are still partners and friends with the Saudis. How about we start there? Well, we aren't going to do that because nobody really cares. They have the money to move things around and to develop industries, including esports. Take it or do it yourself. It's a sad reality we have to live in. If you've got a solution to continue to develop esports and ignore tens of millions of dollars Saudi are offering, please tell us. And again, esports isn't the first thing that this happened to. Look at professional football. It's all bought by the Saudis at this point. Yeah, exactly. Do you think maybe it would be good if a few people said no? Or do we just exist in a future where I like football, I can't watch football anymore, it's Saudi owned. I like Disney movies, I can't watch Disney movies anymore, they're all Saudi owned. I like esports, I can't participate in esports anymore, it's all Saudi owned. Do you think maybe it'd just be nice if people did leave some of those tens of millions on the table and try to get other tens of millions, not ethically compromised tens of millions, or at least less compromised tens of millions? Would that be good, do you think? Apparently, nah, it's just not possible, guys. People post about Saudis acting like they are the only bad government. US government are no angels. This guy killed Jamal Khashoggi. Me. I did it, apparently. So, there was that. The FaZe picture made it to the front page of the subreddit. And so, you know, look, again, the CSGO subreddit, at least it's like 50-50. But people are starting to break down. Like, people are starting to... Then this is the other thing they try and hit you with sports washing. They know you'll break down. They know it's exhausting for you to sustain your outrage. And they keep doing it. And people keep saying yes. And gaslighting you that it's okay that they said yes. And on and on and on and on and on it goes. And so you end up with this. You can see here... I mean, that's a funny comment. They look ready to 16-0 human rights. It's pretty funny. But look, most of the scene already sold their souls to gambling companies anyway. 202 upvotes. People start getting into it. Start saying, hey, yeah, gamba bad. You see there, Robin of Arabia. But at least there was still some holdouts. You can see there a comment. People saying about, oh, you sold out your decency when you're already making all that money from video games. But... everyone's just selling out. I already went in about the FGC in the last episode of the Esports Gospel, just how they're the progressive guys, right? They're the good guys. They love, you know, like, we love women's rights and we love LGBT people and we don't want fucking scumbags like Richard Lewis in. Now, anyway, let's do this huge Tekken tournament in fucking Riyadh. It's like, guys, you know, you're telling on yourselves. Every single time with this bullshit. The worst part as well is, I mean, look, my old stomping ground, you remember Rivalry? They've been publishing some articles. Again, they generally don't tend to do well on the subreddit because you can't really have a contentious opinion unless you're an established, you know, talent. And you can see here, maybe esports is just a waste of money. This is another argument I've seen a lot of where people are literally saying... oh, it just doesn't work anyway, so it's completely fine. It's completely fine that this is happening and people are taking the money because the Saudis are just wasting the Saudis are just wasting their money, so it's good actually. You can see here, Esportswashing, does it work? The whole idea of the concept is by bankrolling big events and successful teams, you will generate tacit acceptance and support for your not-so-savoury political behaviour. Relying on the tribalism of sports fans, you softly and not so softly get them on your side in the political arena as well and sand off some of the rough edges at the cost of a couple of $1 billion. Now, I'll leave the discussion of its overall efficacy in better-informed hands, but that said, I certainly don't see Putin stands tracing back their thoughts to the 2018 World Cup, and most have already forgotten how China's also paid tons of money to big-name football players past their best, which turned out to be such a waste of money that the state has effectively banned the practice. Colour me sceptical. Now, what he's missing out on there is, of course, I mean, look, we've had a sea change with Russia because of their invasion of Ukraine. Up until that very moment, bar American nonsense that Russia hacked their elections, that we've been totally fine with Russian oligarchs buying establishments, buying institutions, participating in politics in Western countries for fucking years. It totally got fucking normalized. Remember as well, as Jace is always going to point out in the chat, the invasion of Ukraine, people think it's a 2022 thing,
But that shit's been going on since 2014. This is it. You know, this is a step up in hostilities. But the Crimean problem has been there for a fucking while. And nobody said anything about it then. Nobody went and took the oligarchs' money then. Nobody said no to the Russian institutions then. Nobody fucking had any issue with it. And then in 2018, Russia just get the World Cup, despite their bullshit. Was anyone criticising the Russian regime? Was anyone putting pressure on people to criticise the Russian regime while we were having a big strongman military fucking opening ceremony? No, absolutely fucking not. So you know what? The sports washing definitely worked. Abramovich did so much when he bought Chelsea to normalise the concept of mega wealthy billionaire Russians bankrolling things. He became part of the London, establishment. Nobody fucking talks about that. So, yeah, people have forgotten. People have forgotten a lot of the bad too. Isn't it crazy to think that to stop dirty Russian money penetrating everywhere, they had to invade a borderline NATO ally country and kill civilians? That's what it took. So don't tell me the sports washing doesn't work, because Russia was getting good press right up until that fucking moment. Again, outside of American hysteria. I shouldn't even need to say anything about China. Yeah, but all their footballers they bought for their league was a fucking bust. And their league never really took off, never captured the imagination. But, I mean, doing business with China, having a Chinese association now, that's normal for most Premier League clubs. Don't tell me it didn't work. Anyway, he said returning to esports, the same sort of sensibilities that burned so many venture capitalists over the past year about competitive gamers seem to make a poor fit for the concept of esports washing as well. Our audience is unwilling to pay for broadcasts, and the always online nature of it all at least offers an opportunity to be better informed of world affairs than what is afforded to the average footy fan. Worse still, fans are loyal to players, not orgs, making it even more difficult to engender the same sort of tribalistic support the concept relies on. No, you see, the concept doesn't rely on you tribalistically falling in love with the Saudi-owned entity and supporting their stuff. The whole premise of sports washing is you normalize the Saudi Arabian control and existence of these things you care about, and then when somebody goes, hey, do you want to boycott this thing that's owned by Saudi Arabia because they've committed another human rights violation, you go, but golf? I love golf. But Formula One? I love the cars. I love them when they go in a circle. I mean, but football? Penaldo plays out there now, and I really like watching it. I couldn't possibly boycott. Anyway, don't America do the same thing? And that's the end goal of sports washing. That's what it does. You also have to understand that if you take an ailing business, something that's falling short or struggling, like golf wasn't making the most money it was. Remember how they made PGL turn, didn't they, right? PGL, the fucking head of PGL, came out and said, I couldn't be a partner with Saudi Arabia given their ties to September the 11th and that investigation that's going on right now. And then immediately when the bag got big enough, walked it the fuck back and came out and said, now, there's a lot of considerations here that we have to talk about. That's what sports washing does. It'll even make you make a fool of yourself. You will renounce anything to get that bag when they make it big enough. He then goes, it's becoming quite clear that the games developers and publishers are the real top dogs in the business. Not that this doesn't bring in its own set of financial entanglements along the way, but again, it's just one reason against engaging in esports washing. You have more efficient ways to hold people by the balls. Yeah, I mean, you've obviously missed a meeting, mate, because the Saudis own those development companies too now, you mad cunt. They're some of the biggest principal investors in the games development, in the games devs. So what if this is just a waste of time and money? I won't go so far as to suggest that the participants are Robins of the Hood type, but I can't help but feel that esports will turn out to be an even poorer investment for the Saudi Public Investment Fund than it did for most venture capitalists in the West, he says, without any
evidence or data points to verify that. It's going to turn out to be one of their best investments, guys, because remember, the purpose is not to turn a profit. That's one thing we know esports can't do. But if you want control, if you want to win hearts and minds, as we've just seen with all the Reddit threads and how jaded people are already and how they don't care about human rights anymore because they just want to see the little firework display to drown out the horrors of the dystopia we all fucking live in for 40 minutes at a time. They've already won, guys. They've got what they want. They can do what they want with impunity to anyone they want, live how they want, and we will not bring their values up to our standards. They will lower our standards to be in line with their values. And that is the final fucking goal of sports washing.